All right, good evening. If you have your Bibles, let's turn to the book of Genesis chapter number 13. And as I was talking to Pastor earlier about what time I would end, I randomly thought about a story Pastor told me a while ago. The details are kind of muffled at the moment, or maybe I am taking away so I don't give away anyone in particular. But I think you told me a story one time when you had told someone to preach and cut it off at this time, and they had told you, what is a rapture coming at this time? And for some reason, it made me laugh up here. So if you saw me laughing up here, I was just thinking about that for some random reason. So we're in Genesis chapter 13 tonight. We're going to be covering a familiar text. Now, I did say, I wrote a reminder for this. If you would pray, and maybe we probably should start off in prayer with it. Today, I was going through the news, and at the moment, there is a college group from the college my wife and her siblings and myself went to that are currently in Israel. Now, that group includes my brother and sister-in-law who are pastoring in Northwest Baptist Church in Marysville. We don't really get much news, and it's kind of crazy how and it's not, I'm not going to go into details or anything, but I really didn't see from like mainstream news or anything about, there was a terrorist attack there today done by a terrorist organization. And the reason I'm wanting us to pray for it is because we have family there. Now they're fine. Everything's fine. It happened away from where they were at. They're okay. They posted updates, but I think that, we'll do it after service, or just pray for that prayer request for me. I just think that it's just something that we didn't get on the news. I didn't see it on the news until I saw the updates that they had posted on their accounts, but just something to pray about if you could do that for me. So we're in Genesis chapter 13 now. As I was studying and preparing for this message tonight, I came across something the Lord had put on my heart. Now, every time I come through Genesis, it's very refreshing to see where we started from, right? Where point A was from, right? God created the heavens and the earth, and then we had Adam and Eve, and we keep going on. And when we get to Genesis chapter 13, we come across Abram at the time. Now, there's one character in Scripture that always intrigues me. No matter how many times I read of him, no matter how many times I would spend time in studying about him, I'm always left with a whole new outlook on this person's journey through the Scripture. And that person is Lot. I always see Lot had something going on. I always see a new angle with Lot. Now, and we're in Genesis chapter 13. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to read a little bit. Now, I understand I may speak a little bit fast, but you can follow along at your own pace, all right? We're going to go ahead and start on chapter 13, verse number 1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journeys from the south even unto Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first, and there Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. So everything that Abram had, Lot had as well. They were matched up there at that time. Verse number 6, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Now, they got to a point that the Lord was blessing them very abundantly. Their wealth was being multiplied upon, and now they had a parcel of land. Now, it became time to kind of say, you know what? It's time for you to move on with your life, Lot. Lot, I'm very happy with you dwelling with me. I'm very happy that we get to see the blessings of God in our lives together. I love you, but I don't love you that much, okay? It's time for you to move on. Now, let's see what transpires. We're going to go ahead and go to verse number 10. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward where? Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward and southward and eastward and westward. So we see a couple things transpire in this, and I'm going to, by way of introduction, you say, well, I know this story. I've heard, I've been going to church 50 plus years. I've heard all the Lot stories. Now there's one thing that I came across in you, and I'm going to kind of bridge it in towards the end, and I'm going to get you lost to get you found. Okay, does that make sense? No, it doesn't. It doesn't to me. I just wanted to say that. So we're looking at verse number 10, right? There's a couple things that Lot did here on his decision making. All right. He had a choice to make. We could all agree that Lot had a choice to make, right? Abraham said, hey, you have, it's not working out for us, bud. Okay, I love you, but we're having a lot of issues. My wife says, you don't put your clothes in the hamper and you're mixing it up with us. Okay, there was probably something going on there, but they started having strife with one another. Now, instead of saying, you know what, let's just keep having strife, he was wise, right? Probably the Lord said, you know what, Abraham, it's probably better for Lot to kind of go his way and to multiply his wealth and do what he has to do. Now, there was a situation here that I kind of saw. It's funny that when Abraham made that proposition to Lot and said, hey, go ahead and pick whatever you want, Lot knew exactly what he wanted to do. Lot didn't say, well, let me pray about it. There's a small parcel of land down here. It's going to take me a little bit of time to kind of get water flow through there. And, it's going to take some groundwork. And, I'm not a farmer. I don't know anything about farming. I do know that I tried planting some grass and it didn't turn out so well, okay? I just decided to walk around the backyard, throwing seed everywhere, okay? It didn't work like that, all right? But immediately he goes, I know where I want to go. The well-watered plains of Jordan. Now, how did that happen? How did he have an answer that quick? Now, if I say, I tell my wife, hey, you know what? I think we should move. And she goes, we should think about moving. Oh, where you guys want? Oh, I want to live at this address in this city. Chances are I probably have thought about that before. Now, when Lot made his choice, I see that he had previously desired to be there. Now, that desire, that inner desire of his heart, that he said, you know what, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Now we see what's going on towards the end of the chapter. He picked his spot where he was going to settle down. We see in verse 12, Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain. And what did he do? He pitched his tent towards Sodom. You see that desire? Now it became manifest. It became a lust. And then it became a choice. It didn't just start with, no, it probably was like, Abraham's kind of outshining me a little bit. He has favor with the Lord. How do I multiply that? Then they probably began, now I'm keeping it in context, okay? I don't want to go off where the Bible's not crystal clear on, but it became to brew a desire in him to want to do more. Now, already in 10 verses, I see that Lot struggled with one thing. Now, we'll talk about that one thing in a little bit. It started as a desire, then it became a lust, and it became a choice that he made. Lot had created a desire he longed to fulfill. Without hesitation, he made his choice. Now we see in verse 14. I'm sorry, we're going to scoot over to chapter 14. Chapter 14, I apologize. Now, in the first 9 verses, we see what's transpiring after Lot had moved. We see Sodom and Gomorrah come under siege from different types of army. Now, in verse number 9, we're going to go ahead and pick up there. With Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and Tidal, the king of nations, and Amraphel, the king of Shinar, and Arioch, the king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there. And they that remained fled to the mountain. They took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals and went their way. They took Lot Abraham's brother's son, and that who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. Okay, so in the previous chapter we see well-watered plains of Jordan. He pitched his tent towards Sodom. Now, one chapter later in verse number 14 and 15, we see that what happens. He already dwelt in Sodom, right? It became a choice. And that there's one now follow me here. I understand we know the story, okay? But there's one underlying factor that we are going to just pull the strings on and bring it down in just a moment. Now, Abraham gets wind of this. He says, all right, I know Sodom and Gomorrah, they're kind of fishy down there, right? They got a lot of stuff going on, but you know what? My nephew is in the mix now. Now it became personal for him. He says, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get him back. But you see, I mentioned to my father-in-law earlier, as I was studying this, I saw, and it's something that I probably saw hundreds of times before. That was his way of having a red flag and an obstacle in his life. Say, you know what, Lot, get it together. You were not a citizen of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now you're living in Sodom and Gomorrah. Now you're experiencing the troubles that they brought upon themselves. Now let's see what happens in verse 14 and 15. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318 that pursued them unto Dan. So he gets a trained little militia together with help of other people as well. And they go, and to make this, we can follow it here, but for sake of time, I'm just going to fast forward it just a little bit. And we see what's going on. We see that they come, they set them free. And what did Abraham do? He set them free, right? He returned all the goods to Sodom, and most importantly, he rescued his family member. Now, if someone say, I would like to venture out and say maybe you may agree. How many of us in here would probably agree Abraham was probably a hero to those people? He just avenged them. He was their ally. He didn't turn his back on his ally, which was Lot. And he returned. He was honest. Now, what happens towards the end of the chapter, for chapter 14, we are going to, he has offered all kinds of stuff. We're going to go, verse 22. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take for a thread, even to a shoe latchet, that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldst say, I have made Abram rich. I don't want no part of this. I don't want you to line my pockets. I don't want you to give me all this stuff so then you have a say in what God has done in my life. All the wealth that I have accumulated, or the lack of wealth that I am who I am at this moment because of God. It wasn't me that saved your people and brought back your stuff. It was God helping me and God delivering them unto me so I could be a benefit to you. But hey, all praise goes to God. Now, I don't see Lot there. He seems to me like he's been a little quiet about that. Okay, that's fine. Now, we see what happens. He said, no, verse 24, save only that which the young men have eaten, and with the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. So, hey, those who helped me, go ahead and give them their portion, right? Go ahead and feed them, take care of them. Now, we're going to go ahead and fast forward. Now, I promise you, I'm getting somewhere, all right? We're going to go ahead and go to chapter number 18. We're going to go ahead and fast forward to chapter number 18, right? Because we're following Lot. We're following what brother Lot has got going on in his life. So we're going to go ahead and scooch on down to verse number 20. And the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence and went for Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? So we see here Lot still didn't get it, all right? We're now a couple chapters deep in here, and Lot still didn't get it. Hey, you got taken captive by, you got sucked into a fight that wasn't your battle. Had you had stayed in the plains of Jordan outside the city, it would not have been your battle. But what did Lot say? No, okay. Now we're getting to this underlying factor, right? I promise it's getting there. But we see a couple things here. Abraham now, up to verse 33, decides he wants to bargain with God. And then we saw, peradventure, if you'd say 50 righteous people, then he's like, okay, well, it's Sodom and Gomorrah, right? There probably isn't. Finally, they get the number down to 10. Probably said, well, Lot, Mrs. Lot, little Lot, Lot Jr., Lot Middle, Lot, maybe it's counting his family members. Hey, what if there's 10 righteous people? Would you save it? Now, what did God say? Let's go ahead and look at lost my place. Let's see, verse 33. And the Lord went his way as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. Now we see chapter 19. There came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. Now, remember, Lot started off in the plains of Jordan, right? He was just facing Sodom. Now Lot's in Sodom, maybe has a nice house, maybe a little fixer-upper or something, gets taken into captivity. His uncle comes in, bails him out. Now Lot has an option. Let me just I don't want these problems. These problems aren't my problems. Let me just go back to the plains of Jordan, kind of hang out, multiply there. No. You know what? I want to go back to Sodom and show that maybe, hey, this is my place. I'm going to make a name for myself in Sodom. Now, he's super excited. It says, Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, behold, now, my Lord, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide with thee in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned. We're in Genesis chapter 19, verse number 3. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, so we're not just talking about two people sojourning through the Old Testament. No, we're talking about angels of the Lord, right? They're coming down to give Lot, hey, this is what's going to happen. 10 people. Abraham interceded on your behalf and said, and he worked it out with God that 10 people, right? Just you and your family, get out of here, because there's going to be now. Let's go ahead and turn. Let me leave off with this before we turn to our next scripture. And we're going to come back. Sodom had created a sin towards God, right? We're all in agreement with that. Now, the first thing that pops up into our head was, okay, Sodom and Gomorrah was a very loose living society. They were very into homosexuality. That's probably the number one thing that we think about. Am I correct? That's probably what we think about. But let's go ahead and turn over, or you know what, for lack of time, I'll give you the reference. In Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 49, we are told what the sin of Sodom. If you want to turn there, feel free to do so. But we see the sin of Sodom, number one, was pride. Then it says fullness of bread, abundance of idleness, haughty, and they committed abominations towards God. That was the sin of Sodom. Now, it's easy to say, well, they were just unnatural affection. But what about the pride? Hey, we don't need God. We can govern ourselves. We could do the fullness of bread. Well, it's all about what we can gather, what we can maintain, what we could bring an abundance of idleness, not doing nothing. They became a society where they just sat back. There was needy, there was poor in their city. They did nothing to help them. They just sat back, reaped the benefits, and let's just be jolly and merry, and as much as we can eat, we can intake. Let's do that. Then what? Haughty. And then an abomination against God, which was the unnatural affection. Now we see a quick rundown. Chapter 19, the angels come to warn Lot. He was now living in the city. But we see in verse number 9, and they said, the men found out these two guys. Hey, we've never seen them before. Let's go. Let's knock on his door. That knock then became to be a loud bang at the door. Then they were trying to kick the door down to get to those men, again, through the sin of abomination. They kicked the door down to get to these men. Lot's mind was so warped at this point, we see in verse number 8. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. Now, Lot wasn't doing this when he was living right? Lot wasn't doing this when he was still sharing that parcel of land with Abraham. Lot wasn't doing this when he was happy on the plains of Jordan. All of a sudden, we see this underlying factor bring Lot to the place that he would have these thoughts and vocalize them. And they said again, verse number 9, the men, stand back, and they said again. They were fighting to go in there. Now, this is what strikes me here. This next phrase, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. Hey, this Lot, you're a foreigner. You came and begged us to stay here. Now, if you don't get out of the way, we're going to deal with you even worse. Now, what does that tell me? That Lot was still struggling with this factor that we are going to discuss in the couple of moments following this rundown. All right? Stay with me. I'm here. Now, we see Lot offered his daughter. We see that they had some issues going on. The men were not content with that. Now, in verse number 14, Lot's trying to gather those 10 people. He said, I probably got my wife. I'm going to get my daughters in this. Now, let's see what happens in verse number 14. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But what does that last sentence say? But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. How about that? Their father-in-law, who undoubtedly I'm sure they looked up to as a man of faith, as hey, you know what? He's related to maybe they called him Uncle Abraham. All of a sudden, take this downward spiral turn that they didn't even believe him when he was trying to save their life. When God included them possibly in the 10 righteous people, hey, let's get out of here. God's going to destroy the city. Which God? You don't talk about God. What God are you talking about? The one that you've blasphemed? Man, you must be crazy. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. What? They thought he was just, he was joking around. They took it as a grain of salt. Now I'm going to go ahead and fast forward here and just give you a rundown, and we'll finish off and get right into our, out of our introduction. Now we see a couple things transpire. He still tries in verse number 18, said, hey, get out of here, go into Zoar, do this. These were the instructions that were given to him. And what did Lot say? Verse number 18, and Lot said unto them, O not so, my Lord, behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed me unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and die. Behold, now the city is near to flee unto, then there is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live? You see, God's providing a way out for him. And what is he trying to do? He's still wanting to negotiate where he wants to go. Hey, he wasn't, I almost gave it away, all right? We had an issue. There was a first red flag. Hey, you got captured and got drug into something. Uncle Abraham had to come get you. Hey, we start seeing things aren't going your way in the city. You're still a foreigner to them. Hey, you now have these morbid thoughts and these unnatural affection, men seekers that are at your door, and you offer your daughters. Hey, you go to your son-in-laws and say, hey, let's time to go. Let's go. And you're not taken serious. And now what? You get a way out, and what do you say? Well, that's going to be too far for me. I may not make it. I'm going to be running with all my stuff. I don't know, God. Can I just hang out here in this little city? Just this little one? Now we see in verse 26. But now he was saying, hey, when you escape, don't look back. Don't even look back. What happened in verse 26? But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a what? A pillar of salt. Pillar of salt. Now, there's a couple things I jotted down here. Why did Lot's wife look back? We start seeing on their escape, Lot was already looking back. He was wanting to dwell right by the city so he could have a bird's eye view of the destruction that was happening in Sodom and Gomorrah. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he said, you know what, I want to stay close, so if there's some goods I can gather back up for my family, I want to be close. Hey, maybe if there's a friend or a family member, maybe my sons-in-law, I don't know, I just want to be closer to the city. Not the mountain they told me to escape into, but I want to go over here. God said, that's fine, you can go there. Then what happens? Hey, don't look back, Mrs. Lot. But what did she do? She looked back. Perhaps she missed a life. As they were running, she said, man, I don't want to give this up. Maybe my sons-in-laws are right. Now, we all know son-in-laws are always right, right? No? Okay. All right. I'm just kidding. It was a joke. Okay. It's okay to lie. Hey, it's okay to have a good time in church. All right. There you go. Maybe she wanted a part of what was going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. But we see she disobeyed God's command and the underlying factor. Okay, I've studied Lot for quite a while, many years in preaching, very small years in preaching, but I've never seen this till this time. Lot wasn't content. Lot was not content. When he was dwelling with his uncle, instead of saying, hey, let me pick up some skills of the trade. Hey, let me figure out how we can work this. Don't cast me out. I'll get my house in order. Hey, no, it's fine. That's fine. I'll pick up my area. I know exactly what I want. Hey, it's okay to have goals and aspirations. But when that becomes discontentment, we have a problem. Hey, he had the well-watered plains of Jordan. He had an opportunity to build mass amounts of wealth and do what God wanted him to do. But you know what happened and crept up in his heart? Discontentment did. He said, well, Sodom and Gomorrah is kind of a nice city. I'm out kind of hanging out here. Then he became indwelt in Sodom and Gomorrah. That wasn't enough. Lot wanted to have the nicest house on the block. Lot wanted to have a say in what they got going on there. But at the end of the day, when they even said, you know what, get out of our way. You're just a foreigner trying to find a place in Sodom and Gomorrah. Now get out of the way before we do worse to you than we are going to do to those guys. Wasn't content. Hey, Lot, here's an escape route. Go ahead and go out and save your family. 10 people, I'm giving you 10 people to save. Well, that'd be a little bit too far for me. Can I just hang out here? So much is discontentment that it trickled down to his wife. Now, men were leaders in the home. And I understand our wives are responsible for their own walk with God as well. But our discontentment, we see Lot's trickle down to Mrs. Lot. Okay, we're just going to call her Mrs. Lot, right? Is that okay? All right. Hey, I'm running for my life with one slipper in my hand. But hey, I want the other slipper. Boom, pillar of salt. Lot's decisions were based on his level of contentment, which ultimately resulted in his demise. What did Lot lose? His home destroyed, family ruined, testimony ruined, lost his wife, and at the end lost his wealth. And at the end of the verses, we see that Lot was immoral with his daughters. Now, a couple things real quickly with this underlying factor of contentment. You see, contentment is something that oftentimes we just go, oh, I'm having a bad day. No, contentment is a heart problem. Now, what happens when we are content? A couple things I wrote down. Number one, bitterness. You know, whenever I'm not content, I become bitter. I become bitter, and guess what I start doing? I start pointing the finger. Well, it's this. Now, this person didn't treat me right. When we are miserable with ourselves, we're not content until we make others around us miserable just like us. And instead of saying, hey, you know what? Help me get out of this pit. Let me bring, hey, you know what? If I'm going down, you're going down with me. Number one, bitterness. Our bitterness hampers our relationships with others. Now, we see maybe in Lot's case, his uncle, big shot. We're talking about Abraham, right? Abraham. Could you imagine Abraham being your uncle and amassing wealth because he's helped you with it? Maybe there came a time where they started bumping shoulders a little bit. And instead of Lot going into his place, well, wonder why Abraham's has a relationship with God like that. Instead of saying, I want a relationship with God like that. Let me work at it. Hey, the God of Abraham, that could be my God. I want to please God with my life. No, it was, well, I know what I want. See you. You have that because you're just lucky. You're just blessed. No, I want the well-watered plains of Jordan. Number one, bitterness. This is another thing we see that what happens when we are content. It's funny. It happens every single time I know in my life when I'm not content that we begin to build up barriers, right? We begin to build up a defense. Well, if something's not going right in our lives, in our hearts, there's a defense. There's a wall that just goes, psh. And that, number two, is pride. We know everything. Hey, you know what? I'm not content with my life. I'm not content where God has me, but I know everything. Hey, what you're doing is wrong. What I'm doing is right. Hey, Abraham, I know what I'm doing. Hey, Lot, you should probably be careful and not go into Sodom. I just saved you from captivity. No, Abraham, I'm good. I'm okay. I don't need that. I know everything. We say, well, I'm really not bitter, but I know that. Oh, you know, right? That's why we're bitter, because we know. Or we offer our opinions and commands without anyone asking. Well, I know, I've been around and I know this and I know that. Hey, Abraham, why don't you just stick with your semi-water stuff? You stick to your side. Don't worry about me. Hey, people in Sodom and Gomorrah accept me and they love me. And you know what? Thanks for everything, but I'm going back. I have a house that I want to get in Sodom and Gomorrah. Wow, that got there pretty quick. Why? He wasn't content. Then we begin to tear others down. Still under pride. We are above everything. We say, hey, you know what? Let me find a home in Sodom and Gomorrah and well-watered plains. That's fine. I have the well-watered plains. I have access to water. I have land that I can unspeakable, that God has blessed me, that Abraham has allowed me to choose. Abraham let him choose first. If I was Abraham, I would have said, look, I'm going to choose this land right here. You pick that little corner back there. But he let him choose first, and he was still not content with that. He said, no, I don't want this. I have bigger dreams and aspirations. Here we have a man with a family, with sons-in-laws. Probably, the Bible doesn't tell us at this point if he had grandkids. Probably not, because that's why we have the Moabites and the Ammonites. But we see that he came to the point that said, I'm still not content. I want more. Number 3, what happens when we aren't content? We begin to compare. It becomes a comparison game. Hey, you know what? I'm already bitter. I've had a bad hand in life. Hey, I know everything, but no one listens to me, so I'm going to tear everybody else down. My opinion matters. Nobody else's matters. Then we begin to compare ourselves, not only with other people, but with other believers. What God's doing for them, hey, why is not doing for me? One of the biggest things on comparison is we begin to, we are, instead of living in the past, we're presently in the past. And say, well, that's our calling card to be able to tell others, hey, this is what you're doing. You know what? There was a TV show I used to watch when I was growing up. I don't remember the TV show's name. I don't know. But the dad in the TV show, no matter what was going, the house was burning down. The house was, kids running amok, all over the place. But he never had time for his kids, never. But he always had time to tell his story of how when he was a senior in high school, and it was a whole thing with the show. He would sit in his recliner and say, when I was a senior in high school, such and such high school, I scored the game-winning touchdown. And the TV would just kind of freeze on. There'd be little highlights of him running with the ball. Now, again, I don't remember the TV. It's probably come to me later. But he began to just live in the past. Now, the problem is when we begin to live in the past victories, where's our new victories? Hey, let me tell you what God did for me recently. Hey, I prayed for something and God answered my prayer. Hey, I was praying and the Lord said, God, who can I be an encouragement today? And God brought so-and-so in my path and I'm an encouragement. What happens is when we get stuck in the past, 50 years ago, I did this, I did that. I can say, before 3 years ago, I was in shape. I played sports and I wasn't overweight. Guess what? It's not 3 years ago, okay? I'm 28 years old and I'm not in shape, okay? Instead of saying, hey, it's time to do something about it. Well, remember, 3 years ago, I was this. No, we began to compare. We place more importance on past wins than in saying, you know what? I'm so focused on winning in the past, I'm being defeated in the present. What's that defeat? Bitterness, pride, comparison. Why? Because we're not content on the lot that God has given us. We're saying, hey, you know what? I could do more. I could, okay, then do it. Well, God, show me a sign. No, you know more than God, right? Because we're already bitter. We're already proud. We're already comparing. Now, what have you done lately? Hey, it's fine what the Lord has allowed you to see in your time. That's amazing. That's awesome. Hey, one of the things about reading the Bible that I love is being able to see the victories the children of Israel had in that time. Knowing that, hey, right now the state of Jerusalem, the state of Israel, hey, there's a brighter day approaching. There's a day approaching that we won't have to have those defeats no more. Hey, my daily walk with God, I won't have those defeats anymore. There will be victory, and that victory is through Jesus. Now, what have we done lately? Well, we're very quick to say, you know what, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. But what have you done? What have you done for God? What have you done in your Christian life? Now, we talk about soul winning. You know, we often equate to soul winning. The only way to soul win is knock doors. Hey, if you're able to knock doors, by all means, do what God wants you to do. That's great. But what about praying, God, send someone my way? Was it last Wednesday night? Last Wednesday night, we're leaving out of church. I'd been praying for it. I'm sure Pastor has been praying for it too. We're leaving church, and I shared this with my Sunday school class this morning. There was a car parked here in the handicap stall. I've never seen the car before. And I just said, hey, what are you guys going on? And they didn't ignore me. Now I'm over here like, okay, there's a car parked in the handicap stall. Where is Wayne? Okay, we need to bring the cavalry and let's get Wayne out here and we're going to tow them and just do it. Okay. So I was kind of smirked and they said, we're praying. I was like, they're not praying. Again, I was proud. I was bitter because I'd been praying for somebody to come and nobody came. All right. 2 minutes later, they drive up and say, hey, thanks for letting us pray. And this guy and his friend were sitting there praying. And I said, well, do you know Christ is your Savior? He's like, well, yes, I do, but I haven't been living right. Hey, that's and then we invited him to church. We talked to him about the gospel. He said he would come, you know, maybe he'll come. I don't know. Hey, that's a victory. That someone said, you know what, I'm going to have victory over Satan and go to a church parking lot where people are coming out and sit there and pray to God. He said, I want to get right with God. Hey, that's a victory. So instead of me saying, well, when I was in college, we saw 30 people saved on this. No, hey, somebody wanted to get their heart right with God and came to our church. Hey, that's a victory. That's a victory. Lot compared himself with Abraham. But guess what? The difference was Lot wanted it all. Lot wanted it more. And at the end, that desire for more cost him everything. Now, before I'd read Lot, right? Well, it's an unfortunate story, how he lost everything. Now, as a father of my son, who now right now he's saying amen in baby language, right? That's him back there saying amen. That story became a little bit more realistic towards me. Knowing that my decision of being content or not and uprooting my wife on a whim and say, hey, Jordan's not for us, we're going to Sodom. Well, what if she was wanting to stay? No, I'm going to uproot, we're going to go. I'm not content here. Hey, you know what? What happened? That trickled down, and now she wasn't content when she turned back and ended up as a pillar of salt. Hey, I don't want to be Lot. Now we see bitterness, right? We see pride. We see comparison. This is the biggest one that spoke to me, ineffectiveness. You see a bitter, proud, compare-happy person will not be effective. You say, what does that mean? You mean bringing in multitudes? No, I mean your walk with God will not be effective unless you get that right. Why? This is it right here. We become a bump on a log Christian. We blame others or circumstances to justify why we aren't serving. Hey, you know what would tie my heart in to something? Now, Pastor had mentioned with the funeral, giving to the American Cancer Society. Possibly though, now, for me, that's a great cause to give to. I haven't personally lost anyone towards that. I've had family that has. So that became a little bit more real to me. When I see children that are passing for complications at birth, hey, that's real to me because I have a child. Hey, when I see people losing their grandparents, that's real to me because I've experienced that. You know when the ministry will become real to you? When you begin to serve. When you begin to say, you know what, I'm done being bitter, I'm done being angry, I'm done being proud, I'm done comparing myself with others. Hey, who I was 40, 50 years ago, it does not matter today. What you're doing for Christ right now matters in eternity. And this is the best one here. Well, I'm a bump on a log Christian. This is why I'm not serving. You know what? I'm leaving because I'm not being used. I'm leaving because I'm not being used. Hey, you know what? I see back here, there's all these chairs up here, but yet pastor says, I want Brother Brian to sit here, Brother Edwin to sit here, but I want to sit up here too. Well, that's not happening. You can't do that. Okay, well, I'm leaving. So we become a build-a-pew Christian and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go where God wants to use me. No, you stay faithful to where you're at now, and God will open up a path for you where you could be used. But we know better because we're bitter, we're angry, we're proud, and we're comparing. You see, at the end of it, we see the true result with Lot. He went to his son-in-laws, right? The ones who married his daughters. That would be like, I'm trying to avoid this illustration, but it looks like I can't here, okay? That would be like my father-in-law coming to me saying, son, which he has in the past with some stuff, and I think we talked about this early on. Son, hey, you know what? I think you should do this. And I sit there and laugh in his face and say, you know what? Now, how many of us would venture out to say, I probably don't, if I'm laughing in my father-in-law's place, okay, we're putting the ministry to the side, all right? We're talking about a personal relationship. How many of us would say, you probably don't respect him much, right? So he would be ineffective in warning me for anything, right? Now, that was Lot's case. He wanted so much that in the end, he lost everything. It's time to stop being a bump on a log Christian and come and do something about it. Hey, you know what? Time is short. We are often talking about, politics. And the world's going to end soon and prophecy. Hey, I'm all for that. I'm all for that, all right? But we're so consumed with prophecy on what's going to happen on the end times and what's going to happen this and what's going to happen that we're living when the trumpet sounds, but we're not living in the present. What are we doing now? We have all these opportunities that God has given us here at this church. Yeah, we have 60, 75 people. Okay, praise the Lord. But there's still areas to serve wherever you look. Hey, there's a reason we have these announcements, not just so I could have my little 2 seconds, okay? It's say, you know what, so-and-so they need help for this. Go see so-and-so. Hey, you want to serve? Hey, pastor, I know you have people doing this already, but can I just pray for you? Is there a missionary I can pray for specifically? Hey, brother so-and-so, we'll use Brother Wayne. Hey, Brother Wayne, I see you out here for 5 hours laying out salt. Can I help you with it? He'll probably say no. Well, he tells me no because it probably takes him longer when he's have to babysit me. Okay? Now, that was a joke. It's okay to laugh. Smile. Okay? It all came down to one thing in this lesson. He wasn't content. He built everything off emotion to emotion. Lot said, hey, I'm not feeling this well. Hey, this time we should separate. Okay, Abraham made the decision. Now, I'm kind of feeling a little bit like the plains of Jordan. Well, it's nice here, but maybe my wife wants to be part of a social club in Sodom and Gomorrah. Maybe I can have some kind of sway on the city. Maybe I could be bigger than Abraham one day. It all boils down to this. We talked about the pitfalls of not being content, and we talked about what we're going to do to fix them in the next 2 minutes, okay? How do we fix it? Stop living from emotion to emotion. Number 2, be happy with where you are at the moment and what you're doing for God. The Bible says in Philippians 4:12, not that I can't read my writing. Not that I speak in respect for what I've learned, but what? Hey, this is church, but what? In whatsoever state I am therewith to be what? Content. Now, therefore I take pleasures in my infirmities, in reproach, in necessities, and persecutions. Now for what? For what case? What case? Why am I doing this? For who? For who? For Christ. Hey, when my contentment is based on how I'm feeling on a day-to-day basis, and it's not based on how Christ is or what I'm doing for Christ, I have a problem. Number 3, serve. Get involved. Don't worry about what others are doing. Hey, if I live my life worrying about, hey, what's brother so-and-so doing today? Hey, what's now I use people as illustrations because I know they're not going to get upset. And Wayne, I'll say, hey, I wake up in the morning and say, I wonder what Wayne's doing. That's a little weird, right? Probably, right? Probably. Hey, I wonder what the pastor's doing. Is he out there at every stop throwing tracts at people? Because we need the gospel out. Or what is Brother Revis doing? Huh? When you're out running around, hey, are you sharing the gospel? How many doors do you knock, man? Oh, okay. Lastly, thankfulness. You know, you can change your heart from not being content, being thankful. Gratitude changes a person's heart. If you're thankful to God of where you are and what you're doing right now, you'll be content. You know what my encouragement to you is? To pray. So you know what? I feel like I'm not being used. That's one of the things that kind of gets me a little riled up. I'm not being used, so I'm going to go somewhere being used. You know, geographical location does not determine the level of service. Because if you have a heart problem in point A, you're going to have a problem in point B. And if you're in point B, like, oh, I need to go back to point A because I was the best there. No, you're going to have a heart problem there. Guess what? Because you're still living with yourself. You're not leaving yourself back there when you're driving to point B. You're still driving yourself to point B. And the problem is you, and the problem is your heart. Be content. Let's go ahead and stand for a word of prayer as we dismiss for our services. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for giving us